And that in prehistoric Korean means welcome to Film Crack Crack with me, Clive Davis, and
himself, Nicholas O'Shenanigans.
Very excitable, I have to admit, very excitable this evening, Nick. Clearly you enjoyed this film a great deal.
Well, I was thinking to myself that if I really had the courage of my convictions, we should have recorded the entire thing in English and then re-recorded the entire hour in gibberish and then subtitled it, but roughly matching when I'm speaking to when you're speaking, and it would have done the subject matter proud, because we're talking not one but two movies today with not a single line of intelligible dialogue in any language known to humankind.
Well, apparently in the first one there's a tiny little bit of, there's like a few genuine
words, right. And okay, so I was reading, my mind was kind of tickled as I was watching these two films about like other movies where the entire dialogue is nonsense, right? And obviously a number of them are cavemen movies, right? So the one with Ringo Starr, is it just called Caveman?
Caveman, yeah.
Yeah, that's apparently, but I think it's in that one where one of the cavemen speaks in Korean.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, and apparently Korean audiences found this hilarious. That one of the, I think it's that one, but there's, probably that makes sense because it's a comedy, or more of a sort of a comedy.
So did the actor in question like sneak in Korean or something?
No, I think he was just asked like, oh yeah, you just do your
stuff
like
in Korean. The rest of us.
Yeah.
Wow. That reminds me of there's a film from the 30s. I'm blanking on the name. It's like is it called a Phantom Lighthouse or something like that? It's a little kind of British programmer, like a haunted lighthouse film, and
it's set Willem Dafoe and
no, not that one. Although I do quite like that film as well. It's set in Wales, and at one point our main character arrives from England, gets off the train in Wales, and talks to a little girl who speaks to him in what he claims is Welsh, but it's not. She just speaks gibberish, and they pass it off as Welsh.
Awesome. Or just like there's old westerns where they just run English backwards, like as
Native Americans, right?
Yeah,
right.
But yes.
Speaking of films with no dialogue as well. Recently on the Magic Morning World podcast, me and Ron did another Korean film, actually, Mobius, the Kim Ki-duk film, which has no dialogue in it at all.
Okay.
You could program
but there's quite a few, because there's a Hammer did what's the one with Raquel Welch?
1 million years BC.
Yeah. As far as I know, that's entirely gibberish, like just grunts and stuff.
Yeah,
there's no actual.
Certainly, Creatures the World Forgot might have been. That as well. So you could program yourself a little. If you've had enough of language, just no more. I know more language for me. You could have a gibberish film festival, and you bring up 1 million years BC, and this. Today we're going to be talking. So to fit the Film Crack remit, I cheated a little bit on the second one, but the first one is legit. It's because we try to talk about films that are a little bit awkward, aren't out there in proper modern formats. So the first one is Tyranno's Claw, and it is very much in that vein, because it's one of those films that tries to convince you that there was a period in Earth's history when dinosaurs and humans coexisted.
The Paleo Flintstone period, I believe.
Right, that's right. The Yabba Dabba Doo era, I believe. Yeah. Which is, of course, nonsense. It didn't happen. It's not true.
They're separated by millions and millions of years.
Yes, because even what was the name of the more recently, what's his face from the Godzilla remake, and then Independence Day, what's his name? Emmerich.
Oh yeah.
Didn't they do one? It was terrible, but and they pushed. It was even further back than 1,000,000 years BC, but it's still it didn't happen.
yeah.
No, was it even closer? I can't remember. What was it called? Was it called 10,000 or is it
Last Wednesday AD?
Yeah, it was made by creationists or something. I don't
know. Yeah.
So it's one of those films, and it's out of Korea. It's a 1994.
And the version we saw is available on YouTube.
Yes,
and
you
looks
can see it on
kind of
YouTube.
a slightly soft VHS scan, maybe.
Yeah, but it's not bad. I mean,
no,
it's not too bad.
It's watchable, but it's definitely not an HD from the original source materials, elements kind of a thing at all. Yeah.
And you don't need subtitles because
luckily.
British. Yeah.
British, yeah.
And directed.
And our director is also our star, right?
Yes.
Right.
This is Shim Hyung Rai, who's a comedian, I think, and comedic actor, but he also has a fairly extensive.
This is what interests me. I've seen at least 2 of his other films. So when I was like, oh shit, this is the guy who directed Yongari and D Wars, which I have embarrassingly seen. Whew. Yeah, D Wars is rough going.
Dinosaur Wars, which apparently is a remake of an earlier film he directed called Tiger or Dragon Turka, right?
Okay. He'd be more interested in seeing that. Maybe.
The other credit of it, he did Power King as well, which is that Korean like Power Rangers rip-off thing. And he also directed a film I never saw, but I've always been curious to see. Do you remember that film that came out in about 2010 called The Last Godfather?
Vaguely. The title sounds familiar.
Yeah, it was like about a mob boss or something who was trying to groom his son. I can't remember if his son was just stupid or actually mentally disabled or something to take over the family business. But it stars Harvey Keitel. Actually, the cast is quite by Shim Rai.
Wow,
interesting cast, as well as Michael Rispoli is in it from The Sopranos, Jason Hughes, and John Polito.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay. I just remember reviews of it. It was absolutely terrible. Apparently.
I would imagine that sounds like an absolute mess.
Yeah, which of course now I'm quite interested to see it.
Yeah. I'd imagine that Jason Hughes is one of those actors you have to catch in a butterfly net, to scrape him off the walls to get him to do anything. So yeah.
Yeah, so he has an odd, and yes, you mentioned Yongari, which is well, not really a remake in name only of a 60s Korean movie, Yongari. And yeah, Yongari was dreadful, right? Was it mostly? I think it was mostly in English language as well, right? Because they had an international cast and And there's a documentary, I think, on YouTube you can find. It's called something like Yongari Chronicles or something. It's like the making of, which is more interesting than
the movie.
But I remember listening to a podcast about it as well, and people who worked on the film. And this is really weird, but if I'm remembering right, the way they explained Shim Hyung Rai's directorial style, bizarrely, is you're making a film, you've got the script, right? Then you need a shooting script, right? Because obviously, you can't film things in sequence,
chronological order, sequential.
And beyond that as well, you want to catch all the angles which are shooting this way one time, and then you want to shoot that way another time, and you want to master, and and then you do something called editing, right?
Yes.
But apparently, according to several cast members, when they made Yongari, they actually shot it sequentially. So let's say we were having a conversation and let's say it was a scene where you finished my sentence and I was going to say, I'm going to have a nice cup of, and then it would cut to a shot of you saying tea. Apparently they would shoot it like that. They would shoot me doing half that,
right,
and then move the whole camera crew and lighting around to the other angle, and back again. And they did this for the entire film.
Wow.
Which is incredible to me that they decided to do it that way.
And was it all done in one take then, or would they do multiple takes of you doing your one line and then move the camera to the other actor?
It must have been a nightmare for the actors to, which explains why
yes,
the acting and the performances in that film are quite so awful, right?
But this one is yeah.
Well, this is a better film than Young Curry, for sure.
Yes, yes. It really helps that the dialogue is entirely made up of grunts and moans. I did notice. Did you notice there was an interesting disconnect between the quality of the teeth, displayed by the lady characters in this film and the male characters in this film. All the men had awesome Billy Bob Joe kind of like mostly gum and a few little stubby teeth, and then all the women had these beautiful, dazzling, perfect set of.
Well, also as well, they went out of their way to cast interesting faces, shall we say, or interesting body types. But then when it comes to the main, no, we want someone hot.
Yeah.
We don't, yeah, so we should probably say so yeah, set in some an indeterminate time period. It's basically the story of, we have this tribe who's led by this super alpha male dude with a
George Eastman, basically.
He did look very George Eastman here, Korean George Eastman.
Because I was immediately I thought of Iron Master, which has George Eastman with the big teddy bear tied around his head, and I was like, oh yeah, this is totally
right. And he rules his tribe with an iron fist, and they sacrifice people.
He's quite a dick. He seems to get his jollies like fucking rocks at this movie. Could be subtitled The Concussion, because people are constantly suffering from like major head trauma. And like, he's not throwing little stones at people's heads. He's throwing big fuck off rocks at people's heads constantly as a joke. Like, haha.
Yeah. And they sacrifice people to this T-Rex, which is not a bad. I have to admit,
no,
I wouldn't be uniformly, but the effects are much better than
they have any right to be, and particularly the T-Rex.
The T-Rex,
when it's shot right, when they have the lighting right, it could almost pass for something from a bit of Jurassic Park. Right. But then there's times where they make poor choices with where the camera is or whatever. Well, but it's pretty damn good.
There's other bits as well. So there's a Triceratops. There's the pterodactyl, obviously just a thing on a wire, but it's fine.
A dude, and who's a dude in a suit also, which is great. I need the parts where it's the guy in the suit.
But what about the little Triceratops thing? I shouldn't, because there's a big Triceratops, there's a baby Triceratops, and there's quite a horrible scene where mommy Triceratops gets killed, Bambi's mother style, right?
Yes.
But I was trying to figure out, because the way the Triceratops is, the little baby one is moving, I thought, oh, that's very primitive animatronics. I thought, it can't move that smoothly or whatever. But then there's a scene later on where it kind of falls over.
Yeah.
And is that actually a little person?
I think so.
In there.
I think so.
On all fours or something.
At least for some of the scenes, I think definitely it is. If there's a person inside the suit,
yeah, or child or something.
Yes, yeah.
But but in general, the effects are. I mean, they're a shitload better than Young Curry, right? Because CGI for a start.
A couple of them, I mean, like the dinosaur. I can't remember what it's called, but it is a dinosaur that was famous for headbutting, right? And there is that whole comedy scene of it running around headbutting various cavemen. But
I think it's called the Marty Pelosaurus.
Yes, I believe so.
There's a dated reference.
It's
for you wet fans.
It quacks, which is disturbing.
That thing is horrible. Yeah, I don't like.
Yeah, and it's just badly. It's just a terrible costume, and it's just ridiculous.
It's disturbing though. It reminded me of, it's less a dinosaur, more like a Cenobite or something from Hellraiser.
Yeah.
So basically, Shim Hyung Rai plays our kind of goofy.
He's our beta caveman, right?
Yeah. But he saves the hot chick from being sacrificed to a T-Rex, and then they flee the one tribe. They find a more civilized tribe.
Yes, the dude who knows how to use bow and arrow, yeah. And how to fish. We get a comedy scene of him spearing his own foot in the river.
Yeah, hilarious. And speaking of comedy, in case it all gets a bit too serious for you, there are fart and shit jokes.
Oh, yes. And I've seen somebody farting in someone else's face is always...
and lots of people with goofy teeth and stupid wigs kind of falling over and doing cross-eyed.
Yeah, lots of cross-eyed stuff, yep.
Yeah, it reminded me a little bit. I actually said, Nick, I don't know if you had a chance to watch it, but it reminded me of when Vic and Bob did their talcum powered turnips routine on Vickery's Big Night Out.
Okay.
It reminded me of that a little bit.
Yeah. A lot of broad caveman comedy.
That said, though, I mean, Tyranno's Claw is actually quite entertaining. I rather enjoyed Tyranno's.
Oh yeah. No, because it's actually quite propulsive. At one point, about like a third of the way through, I was like, "Is this like the Mad Max Fury Road of Korean caveman movies?" Because once it gets started, it is an extended chase for a lengthy chunk of the movie. Is them being running away and being chased by various. It's pretty much nonstop action. And then every now and again, it gets weirdly dark. Near the beginning, we do see there's a caveman before Cave Girlfriend nearly gets sacrificed. We do see a caveman get sacrificed, and the big like forced perspective dinosaur comes in and just clamps on his head, lifts him up out of frame, and it's like, oh. But the part later on where where our hero clubs the defenseless pterodactyl babies to death in their nest.
Yeah.
Like, what the? Like, it was just way harsher than I expected. That it had any need to be.
Because I'm assuming as well, it was aimed at, in general, a kind of family audience, right?
Yes, it feels like it. But then every now and again, it goes.
Had been a hit, and then they thought, well, how can we do something dinosaur-y, but a little bit more within our means?
Yes.
And they decided updating the million years BC.
Yes,
format,
and not having Jeff Goldblum. Yeah.
Oh no! Please don't tell me that was an attempt at a Jeff.
That was as close as you're going to get. Yes.
That was terrible. I didn't even realize I was trampling.
What I was doing. Yeah. No.
I was actually trying to help you out. His name's Dick. Jeff Goldblum.
There we go. Academy Award for Jeff Goldblum goes to.
Right. Nick's not going to do any more impressions for the rest of the show.
All right.
So I first read about Tyranno's Claw in Psychotronic Video 20. The very first issue of Psychotronic magazine, which I ever bought. Which has this fantastic a poster for the Mexican movie The Black Pit of Dr. M. Which I don't know if you've ever seen it, but that's a very good horror. But yeah, so according to Michael G. Weldon's review, it would have been a Video Search of Miami release. Back in the day, and he seems to kind of enjoy it well. But that's the first time I'd ever read about Tyranno's Claw, and then totally forgot about it, and then just happened across it on YouTube. Like we said, it is on YouTube, so you can watch it, but no other format as far as I know. There's probably a South Korean VHS or something. You might be lucky enough to find in the wild if you were in South Korea. But yeah, this is actually kind of worth digging up and taking a look at, I think.
Yeah. And Seo Chan-ho, or Chan-ho Seo, he's pretty great as our George Eastman. I thought. He's got the look. He's a bit Richard Keel as well. He's somewhere in that Venn diagram. It's fun. It's definitely passed the time well. It's goofy and weird that
it's weird. I don't really have that much to say about it, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's not worth seeing. It just kind of it speaks, or rather doesn't speak for itself in a way, right? It gibbers for itself, let's say.
Yes.
But go on.
No, I was going to say, do we know if our director cast himself in the lead in many of his other films?
Yes, he's in most of them, I think.
Okay.
He's also in that last Godfather one I mentioned. Okay. And I don't know, I know of him through the films he's directed because he has chosen a lot of kind of stuff in the kind of fantasy sci-fi category. But I don't know, I don't know how far back he goes as and when I say a comedian, I don't know if that means he was just a TV comedian who went to film, or if he was actually a stand-up comedian. Or I don't know too much about him. I don't know if the shtick he pulls here is typical of, if this is, it's that beloved character, one more time. And if, when this came out in Korea, if people was, great, for fuck's sake, he's doing that again, or, it could have been the equivalent of, if Benny Hill had done a Jurassic Park ripoff or something.
Yeah, or this is the Caveman Tora-san movie 2029 of
exactly. But now it just relocated to because again, I'm just piecing this together from ill-informed. I'm just seeing, but he does seem to have been in a couple of films, maybe as a character called Young-gu or something, and he has like a bright red nose and freckles. That seems to be maybe his comic persona that he played in a number of films. But again, I'm not sure. So if you know more about the no doubt hilarious comedy career of Sim Hung Rai, let us know.
Yeah, we'd love to hear from you.
So so gibberish.
Yes, so keeping with the theme.
Yeah, so I cheated. Like I said, we try and stick to films in kind of verging on lost media, right? This one isn't. There is a DVD of this, but as soon as I started thinking about gibberish films, and I think this is the granddaddy of them all, really. I think this is the ultimate gibberish film, and also I feel it's fallen off the radar a little bit.
I would agree.
As a cult classic, I think back in the day, this was something that, I don't know, it was like one of those titles, like people would talk about THEMROC. You would hear about THEMROC. Interesting for UK viewers who know what we're talking about. THEMROC was the very first of the Red Triangle movies, on Channel 4.
Right.
Which basically...
I suspect is why it may be better known actually in England, and just generally speaking in Europe. I feel like it's not a film that most North Americans will have heard of at all. I think it's unlikely. I mean, I only knew about it because I was reading a lot of taking books out of the university library about French and Italian cinema, and it was mentioned several times in kind of radical or weird or whatever else, difficult films made in that time period. But I couldn't get a copy of it back then at all. So I didn't. I've seen it. I have seen it for the first time this week.
Okay.
So I've meant to see it for 25 years or more, but it fell off of my radar. I forgot about it until you brought it up. I was like, oh shit, yeah, I've been meaning to watch that for years.
Yeah, no, this is my third or fourth viewing, I think, because I love this film. And like I said, once upon a time, I think it did have a bigger kind of cult cachet, and it seems to have slightly waned. There's younger people might not have seen it or be aware. of THEMROC, and I think they should be, because it's a fascinating little film, and
even the poster is great with Andy Capp eating a cop.
Yeah. We should mention, I did mention in passing the red triangle thing. So for those who don't know, basically when Channel 4 was a young channel and they showed some films late at night, someone came up with a brilliant idea of kind of branding potentially offensive or, risque material with this red triangle. So there was there wasn't actually that much. If you actually look it up, it's quite interesting, because the red triangle films were slightly before my time. I don't think I was allowed to stay up later, because this is early 80s. I'm thinking early to mid 80s, right?
Right.
So, do you remember the red triangle films?
No. In fact, I don't know how much Channel 4 we got in Ireland. I feel like
no, we didn't. This would have been the Welsh
we just got
SOC, but we got all that.
Right. I feel like we had BBC One, BBC Two, RTE One, RTE Two, and not much else. And I think things that were maybe on Channel 4, maybe certain select things were shown on RTE, and then but I don't think we ever got anything that was generally just Channel 4 programming. Or we got to see stuff on VHS. We got to see things like who made the comic strip? Was that Channel 4? Yeah. So that kind of thing I only would have ever been able to see on videotape.
Okay, it wasn't broadcast.
Never have seen those. I wouldn't have seen those on TV.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, but basically it's funny, I looked it up, and after THEMROC, the next two Red Triangle movies, the next couple of weeks ago, were a couple of Shuji Terayama movies.
Okay.
Pastoral and Throw Away Your Books and Rally in the Street. But basically what the Red Triangle became to be known, especially if you were, a young teenager, was there's some tits coming up.
Chance of boobs.
Just, stay tuned.
Yeah. Forecast calls for some possible tit flesh.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. I do remember a certain amount of that in... even I could later on we had HBO things were also, we didn't necessarily have HBO, but HBO things might show on certain channels in Canada. So past maybe 11 o'clock or 10 o'clock at night, there's a chance you might see something interesting. And so you'd kind of...
Channel 4 was a shoe-in when I was just at the right age when I was a teenager. If there was a film late at night on Channel 4, chances are there was going to be just enough to kickstart your puberty
imagination.
Yeah, but anyway, enough reminiscing about the early days of self-pleasuring. We shall return to THEMROC, a film from 1972, written by Claude Faraldo. So this stars the fantastic Michel Piccoli.
Yep.
Always a favorite of mine, but this is the ultimate Michel Piccoli film.
Yeah. I was like, Jen was watching parts of it with me, and she's like, is this like James Caan has a really bad day? And there is something a bit James Caan-y about.
Well, here's a question to you. I don't know if she mentioned it, but see, the thing about Michel Piccoli in this film as well is, on the one hand, you could call this film, Revenge of the Pervy Old Oji-san, right?
Yeah.
In some ways, he's very much, that. But there's also something strangely masculine and sexy about him a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, he swaggers. Like, once he has his kind of breakdown or whatever, and he becomes the new man, the primitive man. It's he's definitely got a certain weird sex appeal.
Long live the new Piccoli.
I was fascinated. I mean the movie, it's so alien. The movie's not alienating, but it's so much about alienation, right? Right from the get-go, like the use of this kind of like, is there any music? At a certain point I was like, is there any non-diegetic sound in this movie at all. I feel like I don't think there is. I think it's just the sounds of the city, and like just that was kind of arresting, the fact that it was just, you get this kind of noise of the industrial, and then
but it has been, it's not naturalistic either. It's clearly been kind of layered, right,
amped up, to this kind of like, it's this deafening like racket that the city makes, and then everyone's just kind of fucking zombies, you know. I mean, it did bring back to me like being in Shibuya Station at the end of a long work day, and all of the poor salarymen with, you know, faces like bags of smashed assholes kind of staggering off the train like red-eyed and just like ruined from another, you know, 11 hours at the grind. And yeah, all of that stuff was just like, oh wow, this is just, modern life just stinks. It's just this like, who wouldn't want to become a caveman when faced with it? And then and then his job is fantastic, like the job that he has,
whatever his job is. He seems to commute to some sort of factory complex. Is made
there's two groups, right?
Two different teams of men in different colored overalls.
Yes, and one group paints the outside of a fence black, and the other group paints the inside of the same fence white.
Right,
and that's their job.
Right, and basically he's unsatisfied. And so we should kind of mention, we'll get back to this a little bit later, I think, but the one thing that might, if you're, I mean, another reason this might not loom large in the cult film landscape anymore as well is it's not just a kind of you know, stick it to the man kind of let's regress and fuck this, you know, modern capitalist kind of treadmill film, which you can imagine hipsters nowadays getting behind well. But what they're less likely to get behind is the male gaze. I mean, not just the Michelle. I mean, the amount of just leering camera shots on miniskirts
legs
and
legs,
great. But yeah, it's like Robin Asquith wrestled the camera away from Claude.
Exactly.
So that aspect hasn't necessarily dated, is it? It's
and the primitive caveman thing that emerges is definitely also a return to traditional values of drag a woman to your cave.
Yeah, exactly. So it's very much it's
problematic in that way
of anarchy, right? Yeah. So that's worth keeping in mind, I think.
And then I mean, you know, just I love, you know, and he's got this horrible mom, right? That I assume that's his mother, the one he lives with, the one who just hiccups for the entire last 2/3 of the movie over and over again. You know, in the morning she comes in and she's pointing angrily at the clock.
Well, that's interesting. I don't mean to out you here at all, but that's interesting kind of mirror. Is she horrible? I don't know if she is horrible. Right?
Well, okay, maybe
she just comes out and says, "Look, you're late for work," and then she's horrified by his behavior, and he does molest. Apparently, his own sister, but that's only something
much younger looking sister.
But that's only something I was wondering about that. Just like when we were talking about diversions, everyone says that those people are Nazis, but I'm not sure if they're actually Nazis.
Right.
I've read that that's his younger sister, but there's nothing in the film to actually indicate any filial
she could be a lodger or
I mean, she could be a sister, but I'm just saying it's not a slam dunk.
Yes.
Yeah. So we're introduced to the grind of Michel Couli's life, and also, you know, he's clearly very frustrated and surrounded by these miniskirted 60s, 70s style hot young women, and he's not getting any action, whereas, you know, other people seem to, for instance, the higher ups in the factory and stuff like that. So also from the very beginning of the film, he seems to have a bit of a cough or something, right? Like which, as the film progresses, this seems to be the seed from where his rebellion starts, right? And eventually at work he's caught leering through some window at
he gets smashed in the nose as the guy opens the window, which is great. bloody nose, and he's taken his, he's basically yelled at. He's, you know, hauled up in front of the boss.
And there's a great scene where he's taken into the offices to be giving a dressing down or whatever. And there's one man whose job seems to be sharpening a long line of pencils, and then
that's amazing.
Then breaking it and then
one by one.
Yeah,
it's just pure Sisyphus.
It's not subtle, but you know, it works. It does. Yeah. So basically, he starts freaking out, and he goes
into the washroom, right? He goes into the toilet stall where he just starts to bark mad. Like the cough develops into this kind of barking noise. But the thing is, of course, the joke is nobody's actually at any point nobody's actually spoken, because everyone just speaks in gibberish anyway. But it's gibberish that more or less sounds like
sounding
gibberish.
Yeah. It's kind of like me doing an impression of someone speaking French, is what.
Yes. Yeah.
And he loses his job, but he seems quite pleased. And then he yells at a subway train and walks on the tracks.
No, he does go down on a secretary while he's still there.
Yeah. And that's another
kind of a.
That's the other weird bit, isn't it? Because she's pleased. She doesn't beat him off.
No, she's totally fine with that.
It's exactly So again, this is the element of the film, like we said, hasn't necessarily dated that well. I love
the sexual politics. I do love the part where he continues his madness, and he takes it down into like the metro, and he just like shambles along the track bellowing, and everyone's just like, holy shit.
It's quite interesting to see him, actually, because the design. It's interesting that it seems as if there's like so for instance, here and in London and New York, for the most part, the track's just on the ground, right? And either side of it is just some gravel, but this metro seems to have like either side of the track. It seems to be in like a pit or something.
Yeah.
It's kind of strange. I'm not sure why it's designed like that. So he can walk alongside the track, but under it somehow.
It's a weird moment, and
it's a good location though. So he goes home and proceeds basically. Well, first he kind of barricades him and his sister, who he molests, and again, mind.
I don't know if can you use that word, because she seems completely into it. So she recognizes the new man is here, the caveman.
He bricks up the door.
His bedroom door.
And then proceeds to smash out the side of that overlooks the courtyard.
So like basically what is a window, he takes a sledgehammer and makes it into a giant cave opening, so that his room's basically open to the elements, and then he hucks anything that kind of reeks of you know, modern or civilization. So his Chesterfield and shit just goes flying out into this
everything, right? All his furniture
open court.
And he also installs a rope ladder so he can climb in and out of the courtyard, right? And obviously all the neighbors can see what he's doing, and there's small signs here and there that whatever's wrong with him is
catching.
Some of his other. So then again, the sexual.
Well, he's become very sexually attractive, right? So that's a problem. So there's a little cuckolded guy whose wife is immediately like, oh my god.
And at night he climbs up his rope ladder to be with him, but again, he seems relatively okay with this. He kind of c'est la vie, right? Who could blame her? And he's getting into it as well. And so after a while, obviously the police are called in. There's like riot police, and they try and
I couldn't help but think
grenades, but I could catch these grenades and throw them back and forth to each other.
I definitely couldn't help but think this is only really a few years after Paris '68, right? When you would have had the French police, you know, the Paris police in the streets beating up long-haired students wearing their gas masks, and you know, and you had people building barricades, right? You had people blowing up cars, and you know, building barricades out of paving stones, and you know, it's all that shit was relatively fresh in the French mind.
No one sings the Internationale in this film, though.
No,
no,
because you'd have to grunt it.
Right, you could do a grunt along version.
I guess you
could. It's their version.
Oh, there's also a guy
of every language in the world, right? So you could do a grunt along.
One of my favorite guys is the guy who spends the entire movie until the last, and maybe I won't spoil it, but he spends the entire movie until the last 2 minutes waxing his car. Obsessively, he's just there in the courtyard, looking up every now and again at what's going on, and get back to like giving his car a really good finish.
My favorite character who turns up is Patrick TYRANNO'S, who is the guy who starred in that great Jim Thompson adaptation, Série Noire.
Oh, okay, yes, right.
Yeah. So,
who does he play in this?
He plays the bricklayer. There's a scene later on the film where a man is, I guess, tasked by someone to come and fill in the hole in Michelle Piccolo.
Yeah, brick back up that window. Yeah.
And that scene is wonderful. The whole playful bit where they're just like, irritating him, and he's just whistling, and then finally decides to join in.
He looks so much like he stepped off the set of a 70s porn film as well. With his mustache, and he's beefy and handsome, and that whole thing, because it is a seduction. He's seduced into the caveman lifestyle. So and there's cannibalism.
Well, at a later point, Piccolo sneaks out into the streets to. I was at a loss actually. There's a police van going around. They go to the Arab quarter, right? And I've no idea what they're doing. The police are doing. So I've no idea what they're doing. And he manages to snag one of the, knock them unconscious. Take it back to his place, and everyone eats. He's cooked on a spit where he's actually turns into a literal pig, right?
Yes. Yeah, not subtle.
Again, no, it's subtle. No, it's not one of the words for this film. Also worth mentioning is Meow Meow plays the thumb-sucking neighbor who, again, I'm not sure if this registered. It's a film you have to kind of pay attention to, so that there's one, I don't know if you noticed, there's a cutaway, because the thing is, this is spreading, right? This madness seems to be spreading, spreading to all the neighbors.
It's become a full-fledged rebellion in this building.
And it ends with this howling, everyone howling. It's actually it's a bit proto-Shivers.
Yes, I actually thought that exact thing. Yeah, when I was it's that, and the other thing that it's proto, or maybe he just shamelessly borrowed from it. If you replaced barking in gibberish with lengthy, angry tirades, I Stand Alone and Carne by Gaspar Noé.
Okay.
I think
or even Falling Down with Michael Douglas.
Yes, but just the whole, because there is that quasi creepy sexual stuff going on in in Carne and I Stand Alone as well, with the daughter.
But what I was going to say was, so this is a cut. It's all. I actually had to rewind it to see if, and it comes out of nowhere. But it seems as if the police who are there, to try and keep order and they're not. They're also susceptible to like flashes of this kind of atavistic madness.
The malaise madness.
There's a bit where, and there's nothing going up to it, and there's nothing after. So it's just, there's one scene where it seems as if Meow Meow is gang raped by a bunch of cops, right? They drag her down and they start taking the clothes off, and then it cuts. You don't see anything, and you never come back to it. Which is a kind of an interesting little choice that I might not have picked up on. If you looked away for a few seconds, you might miss some of it. But it's quite unlike any other film I can think of, really. I mean, and what's amazing about it is it's utterly absorbing. Like,
given that there's no dialogue.
No, and it's nothing. There's not really much of a narrative. It's just this kind of chaos.
But there is something so like just the it does bring me back to that Bakunin you know, the urge to destroy is also a creative urge, right? Like there's something just thinking of the final scenes in whichever one of the maybe Lynch Law Classroom, you know, Suzuki's, you know, film, where it's just 10 minutes of girls in school uniforms going apeshit and smashing the school to pieces, and the police spraying them with, you know, that stuff.
Well,
is just,
of course, as we mentioned before, it did, of course, become Girls of Kamare as well, right?
Yes,
so,
yeah. There is something just propulsive and magnetic about just somebody capturing, I guess, orchestrating chaos in that way on screen, and it is liberating, right? It's, you know, just the scenes of him just trashing his place and hucking everything out, and I was just like, yeah, this is so much fun to watch, and his joy. The first,
it must have been fun to make. It must have been.
When he shows up at the building site earlier on, I didn't know where that was going at that point. He just shows up at the building site, and he's got his sister with him, and he's wheeling around in the wheelbarrow, and he's so overjoyed to be in this place where they're smashing stuff up, because it seems like it's a deconstruction site. They're tearing down a building, and he's just like, and then I get it later on, okay, this is him being inspired. Oh yes, I can take this urge to destroy home, and I can take the equipment, and yeah, he takes off with the building stuff and then smashes the shit out of his place.
But it's interesting as well. I think this is even more so now than when it was new. I think when the film was new, obviously it would have been quite the thing to see as well. But this level of production values where everything was real, I think taken for granted.
Yeah.
Whereas now, whereas sexual politics would have aged badly, maybe for some viewers, I think the aspect for it that would be kind of really remarkable for especially younger filmmakers is just, holy shit, they did this. I mean, that's a real a part of the real courtyard. They've smashed they're really chucking crap into the it's, I mean, it must have been amazing to have been on set making this film, right? Just
it's funny. It's funny too, you know, intentional or not, but it makes everything seem so flimsy too. Like the way that the furniture just breaks apart into this kind of like particle board shit. It just makes it all seem like there's this veneer of, you know, culture or whatever over the, like it's an inch thick over the top of these, like, yeah. I had tons of fun with this. And a big part of it is, I think, that central performance by Michel. It's just he's just, he knocks it out of the park.
So it's an interesting, it still holds up, I think, and it's definitely I mean, it's an essential watch to my mind, even if some of it maybe hasn't necessarily dated. I'm not sure if it's the revolution that the woke generation want.
Yes, yeah.
But it's not as inclusive.
No. But I do think, you know, I mean, I'm always hesitant. Yes, we can apply, you know, present day. In fact, you know, there was no shortage of feminism in the 60s. There was no shortage of feminism in the 30s, right? So, you know, certainly there would have been, I'm sure, critiques even then. But that said, like, something about a time capsule is also interesting. Like it's interesting to see a film in its context and to be like, yeah, okay, yes, this was considered radical at the time, and we can see the parts that would still be considered radical, and we can also.
Well, also, I'm wondering if we're thinking of it from that more kind of North American centric kind of viewpoint as well. I mean, maybe it wouldn't necessarily actually be that problematic in France today. I think the French would probably, you know, have a slightly more nuance to it, because if you wanted to get, you know, if you really wanted to get into it, it's not necessarily, or it shouldn't be controversial to, you know, just put forward, you know, the notion that, you know, a man at his most kind of manly and feral on a very deep biological level is going to have a certain form of attraction.
I mean, the other thing too, I suppose, really,
that shouldn't be a
controversial thing to say. It's not like, other than maybe the very early scene where he just randomly sticks the space between that woman's legs and that she's into it, you know. But other than that,
that's the only
everything else is actually very simple. And in fact, the women are approaching him, and it's, you know, so there is an element, I guess, of liberation there. You know, it's you know,
but it is from the male point of view, though. There's no doubt about that, right? It's written by someone who, this, you know, I don't know, you know.
Imagine if I could live in a cave with attractive women.
But you're right. That the attack on the secretary is the only part where it steps over into like Nikatsu Roman porno, which territory, or that's, you know, that's all they all want, really, kind of, you know, that is the only bit, and that is definitely the most jarring. I think if that scene wasn't in it, I don't think the rest of it because the rest of it is it makes more sense for the character. So this is a really great scene, because I love the photography in this film as well, kind of on location stuff, and it's all kind of quite. There's a great scene where he's going to work in the morning, and he's looking up the stairwell, and there's like a bit of upskirting, right, and he's giving it, you know, the eye, but I think that's less problematic, just because that's what he's supposed to be, right? That he is a kind of sexually frustrated and thinks everyone else is having more fun than him. But yeah, when you conflate it with that scene with the secretary, for example, then I think you know, it kind of, I don't know, it's something that struck me more this time round watching it than previous viewings. That seemed a lot more like, if you were doing a THEMROC, I can't imagine anyway, it's on the cards anyway, but a THEMROC remake,
right,
that stuff would probably go by the wayside, you know, and there would probably be a lot more diversity of ethnicities in that
in the housing complex.
I'm wondering actually where this was shot, because I don't think it's Paris, right? I think it's another town. No, it's on there. I couldn't find a filming location. I don't know where it was shot.
Yeah, there's not a lot on. I mean, actually, it's got a very, very short Wikipedia entry. But anyway, I had lots of fun with this. I have to say,
I know it's not Paris, because, as you know from Hollywood films, you know, the Eiffel Tower is in every scene.
Oh yes, wherever you turn, it's behind that shoulder, or it follows you around.
Yeah, it's on wheels.
Shit, it's like a shark. But anyway, I you know, I could comfortably recommend both of the films we watched, and, you know, maybe, as I said, maybe it's time to program an entire film festival of movies where everyone just grunts at each other.
So THEMROC lived up to, because that's the danger as well, as if something's been on your mind for decades, it seems, and you don't get around to seeing it, it could, you know, it could be overburdened with expectations.
No, I mean, I always, as you know, I have a very soft spot for weird 70s Euro stuff. You know, it almost, again, could fit in, I mean, in a weird way, it could fit alongside, you know, Death Laid an Egg, and that, just like these kind of like, what the hell, like this rejection, this wholesale rejection of corp, and, you know, this is missing. Like, we don't see many. I mean, if, like, is Fight Club as close as we get to it, you know, later on, and that's not a great, like, that hasn't aged, I think, terribly well.
Yeah, no, that's an interesting comparison, actually, because certainly those elements are there, and also it's kind of interesting. I mean, that's a film as well that has not the film's fault, but has attracted fascination from some weird pockets.
Yes,
like I'd imagine it's a firm favourite round the Proud Boys HQ. They probably watch.
Oh yeah, I would imagine, yes, and I could imagine incels probably think it's great as well. Yeah.
But again, I think both films do have in common, though, I think, is they both are kind of aware of their own deficiencies. Or not deficiencies. They're aware of like they're self-critical. Like, I think THEMROC is one of those films that was, I might be wrong. Claude Ferraldo might have been totally serious, but I get the feeling that it's a film that was probably over-analyzed by like people coming from it from that point of view that saw it as kind of post Paris riots kind of tract, or a little red for anarchists or something like that. I'm not sure if it's so much that as just proper anarchy, like not necessarily. Yes, it's got a sense of humor. It's not.
Yeah, I was gonna say, to me, it definitely feels like a comedy.
Yeah,
it definitely has.
Also for the bricklayers, great. So I'm not quite sure. I'm sure some endless theses were written back in the day. Like, what THEMROC is actually telling us, about modern capitalism and how it blueprints revolution.
When it's boiled down, because it often is, it seems to be boiled down to these two things. Like, this is a film, or it's a film about a guy who rejects society, goes to live in a cave, and has sex with a sister and eats people. Like, it seems so much more grim. Because I remember when I read the description when I was, a 19 or 20 in this book I took out of the university library, and I was like, Jesus, that sounds, awful. And interesting. It was a time, but I didn't expect it to be actually such a knee slapping, fun time. Like, I thought it would be grimmer, but by the time we get to the cannibalism, it's so obviously a joke, so obviously over the top. It's and not
your own experience. It's interesting. You could think of it as a parallel as the angry young, advocating, bomb throwing Nick politely renting the book from the library with his card. And so the only other film as well, a film I saw recently that I think must have deeply inspired THEMROC. Actually, there's a Japanese film from the early 80s, I think 1982, called Okami, or Wolf, which is also known as Running is Sex in some places. Which is a kind of it's kind of a pink hybrid. There was like these 3 movies that I think Joy Pack made for distribution via, I can't remember if it was Joy Pack and like Shintoho or something. Anyway, basically with these 3 semi kind of experimental movies, but also had enough nudity and sex in that they were pushed out as like a triple bill that could have played in sex theaters as well. And Okami one, which is the more interesting of the 3, which isn't a great film, but the main character in that is just this guy who just sleeps all day in a darkened apartment. That's all he's got in there is a fridge. He just eats like raw vegetables, and then he just goes out and just runs, occasionally rapes some women, and then runs, and there's a bit of THEMROC in that where there's points where he eventually gets beaten up by some citizens, and you get the feeling that their rage is directed at the fact that, like, oh, you and your free ways and doing
right.
But it's even more, obviously, as you can tell from the description, the sexual politics of Okami is even more
for sure
than THEMROC. But it's just an interesting example of THEMROC's influence waning now, I guess. But like I said, once upon a time, it was, it was a bit more of a cult. It was, I think it was one of those
cultural touchstone for that
kind of, like it was one of those films you would have seen maybe at a late night. You know, you would have seen Pink Flamingos, Thundercrack, THEMROC.
Right.
It was in that group of kind of must-see oddities, and like you said, especially maybe more so in Europe than in North America. But I feel as if it's not so much now. But here we are resurrected, and all 3 people who watch us will rush and make it a make it a surprise retro hit of 2023.
The last thing I was going to say is, for some reason, I don't know why, but it also brought to me vaguely Zero for Conduct, which
Zero Conduit.
Again, that's just that, like, movies that end with scenes of mass, like just people smashing everything up and bringing down the man, you know, and also French. But Naked as well. I don't know why Naked suddenly springs to mind.
Well,
but that's again and maybe that's that thing about the kind of in that way that Gaspar Noé also, like, instead of going with no language, instead these incredibly verbose characters who go around screaming at people in these lengthy paranoid monologues, right? But it has the same alienating effect in some way.
Recently got tail end of last year, I think Naked got a re-release actually.
Okay.
Again in some theaters.
I don't know if I would want to see it again. I saw it the once, and it was plenty for me.
I saw it not that long ago, and it still holds up.
I would imagine
pretty well. It's definitely a film for our generation. I think I'm not sure if younger people would be, if it would resonate with them, but it's definitely a coming of age at that that post Thatcherite Britain kind of.
It was always hard for me to watch Thulis in anything else after, though. Like when he shows up in Harry Potter films and stuff, I'm always just like, I'm just waiting.
I think he's gonna turn to Harry and go, you could teach a short monkey with a long stick or a tall monkey with a short stick.
Exactly.
He's great. I love David Thewlis. David Thewlis is good in everything. Anyway,
okay.
Michelle Piccoli.
Well, yes.
Right. I'm off to chuck all my furniture off the balcony.
Perfect.
I won't be seeing you again. This is the last show. I'm progressing. Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. Well, it was great to know you, Clive.
Oh.